Welcome back, everybody. This is Joe. Today we are going to look at examining data in Pandas just a little bit further. So I'm going to show you how to use some additional functions that we haven't already gone over to get a feel for your data, help you wrangle your data, etc., etc. So we've done a couple of videos in Pandas so far, and I have one more to show you in the next video. It should be a short one on the map function and formatting, and then we are actually going to jump into Power BI again, but this time we're going to stick with this life expectancy data set and roll with this one going forward in Power BI. So if you haven't gotten here yet, I encourage you to go back to the beginning of the series and rewatch everything, but at the very least just start at the beginning of the Python playlist, or if you're just interested in learning about some of these functions, just try and follow along without a real sense for this data set. But if you have been following along, I trust you know how to get here. Launch your Jupyter notebook, open up your DSBB Pandas worksheet, and then you'll have to run everything. So do a cell run all. You should see a little asterisk in all of them, and hopefully get no errors. It goes all the way down to 9. So we're going to insert some cells after cell 2 here. So we've read in our data, and now we can use it. So delete your 30 out of head just so this becomes a little smaller. You can do a ControlEnter. By default, head is just going to show you the top 5. Go ahead and make a new cell, and you can put a comment here that says use pandas, or let's just use functions. Some of these might not necessarily be just pandas, it could just be base Python as well. So use functions to get a feel for data. So let's start with using the count function. So we can take our LEDF, and we can do this right on our data frame, and then just do count. And anytime you do a function, you don't necessarily need an input, but close it in parentheses, do ControlEnter. So here we go, we have a 3253 count, which you could have gotten from just doing the describe. Count is always the first one. In here, you can specify an argument in the count if you just want entity or something like that, but this is always good to get a count for all of your columns. So how about check for nulls? So this is something, we know we have a clean data set, but you might not always have a clean data set in the future, so checking for nulls is always a good thing to do. So you can do isnull, and we can run this. We can do all this in the same cell block, run it, and then we'll just show you the output of the very last thing. So leave count uncommented, no big deal. It's just going to show us the isnull data set. So here it gives us the number of rows times 3 columns, and then it's just doing a false for everything that you see. And there's a lot that we can't see here between rows 4 and 3, 2, 4, 8, but they're all false. We know that, but if you didn't know that, and you just ran an isnull, this wouldn't tell you much on a data set with millions of rows where you can't see everything. So what you can do is chaining. We've talked about this a couple times. You can chain another function on the end of a function, and again, you don't necessarily need an argument. Then you can do a ControlEnter, and it's summing up your nulls now for every column. So you have 0 nulls for entity year and life expectancy. Okay, I also want to show you the dropna and the fillna function, which helps you, if you do have blanks, to actually put values there or just get rid of them altogether. But we don't have anything to drop in this case. So if you make a new cell and say use dropna function to get rid of rows with nulls, nothing will happen, right? We can prove this by doing df LEDF dropna, and it won't save it unless you tell it to save it. So you can save over the variable by doing LEDF equals LEDF dropna. Just do ControlEnter on that. Okay, and now make a new cell, and you can do check counts again. And if you do LEDF count, ControlEnter, you still have 3253, right? Nothing has changed because you don't have any NAs to drop. So let's go up to this cell, make a new one here, and then we can replace all of the Japan values with blanks. So for this, we use the LEDF dot replace, and we can use a dictionary now to say every time we see Japan, which I'm putting in quotes, that's the key, and then the new value is just blank. So just like this. Hit ControlEnter, and you see that it has taken Japan away now and has just put blanks there. But one thing to note, if you make a new cell and just quickly check LEDF head, we know Japan's at the very top. Japan's still there. So again, this goes back to making sure that you save over it. So LEDF equals LEDF.replace Japan. Now it will actually make Japan blank. So do a ControlEnter here. Okay, it's done that. Now come back down to here and do another ControlEnter, and now you see that the head is blank where it used to be Japan, now it's actually blank. Okay, so now where you have LEDF.head, just do replace null. Let's replace nulls with, or let's actually drop the nulls. Sorry, drop nulls. So if you just do LEDF drop NA, then do a ControlEnter. Again, it doesn't do anything because these actually aren't NA. So in this case, they're just empty, and that's not exactly what we want. So we could have put null here or NA here, but just for the sake of practice, let's again now replace former Japan values, right now blanks, with NaN. So again, LEDF equals, let's save over it, LEDF.replace, and we can use the replace function. This time you don't need a dictionary, just do blank, and we need to make these floats. So NaN, float, we'll just make this a float. So a number, right, that's NaN, and then you could use this Inplace argument. So let's do Inplace equals true. And when you put this argument at the end of the replace function, then you don't need this LEDF equals LEDF. So what this does is it replaces your blanks with NaN floats in place. So it saves over it without you having to tell it. So you can either do it like this, where you do LEDF equals and save over it, then you don't need this final argument, or you can avoid doing the LEDF equals and then just put this in place argument at the very end. So two ways of doing it, and you can see it here in 18 and in 20. So now do a ControlEnter, and it looks like that has worked, but let's make another cell here to just check LEDF head, and I'm just using head because I know Japan's at the very beginning, and it looks like you have NaNs here. So go ahead and cut that, and now instead of dropping them, let's actually fill them with something. But let's check the counts before we do anything. So we can do LEDF counts, or count, right? And okay, this is exactly what we want to see here, and I should have changed the comment to check counts. So in entity now we actually do have missing values, but we didn't take anything away from year in life expectancy, so we can see exactly what's happening here. So let's go down one more. We can get rid of this check counts again, and let's add Japan back. So we can use this LEDF fill NA, and then we don't need to really specify anything except for Japan in this case, because we're just filling the NAs with Japan. So I'm missing one thing here. I could either do LEDF on the front and do an equals, or I can get rid of that and then just use my Inplace argument equals true, and that's what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to just show the head, and I should see Japan's fall back into place, and I do, and since I ran this, I can just go up here and check the counts again, and now it is back to 3253. So that should help give you a feel for how to see the counts, examine your data a little bit, fill NAs or drop them if need be. Let's make a new cell and go down here, and let's start to actually play with the data a little bit more now. So you're not always going to want to just manipulate the data set that you have. You might actually want to break it away and examine it in a different way. So for example, if you wanted just a list of entities, you can generate a list of entities. Click enter. We'll call this entity list, and then we can just select LEDF and then the entity column, and then we can use this toList function, and it will go into its own list, entity list. So we can take a look at it by doing ControlEnter there and see we have this list, and here's everything. You can't use the head function, so we can just run this again. If you do the head function here, it says list has no attribute head, so we actually have to use the slicing, which I think I've touched on, but we haven't actually done it. So if you could do 0 would give you the first one, or you can do this colon and do 0 through 4. So now click enter, and it shows you the first 4 are Japan. If you did like 0 through 20, it would give you 0 through 20, and there you go. But we actually probably, it would be more useful instead of just getting 3,253 rows from this entity list is to get a unique entity list. So we don't need Japan every time Japan appears, we just need it once. So let's bring this back down to 4, do ControlEnter, hit plus for a new cell, and then we can do generate unique list of entities. So start by creating an empty list. I think this is the easiest way to do this, or at least it helps me explain it the easiest way. So unique entity list equals, and we've done this before, just create an empty list, and then we can go back to writing our for loop. So write for loop to append unique entities to list. So for, and again, this could be anything. People like to use I because you're iterating through. You can actually say the word country. You can just use a C, so I'll just use the word C. So for C in entity list. So we're iterating, we're looping through the entity list that we've created up here, which is just this column, right? It's just a list of values in this entity column here. Do your colon, and then you can do unique entity list dot append, and inside of that append you can just do C, right? Because you want to add the country to the list, but we don't want to just go through the row and add every country, so we actually need to do this conditional statement. So you can comment anywhere, so use conditional statement to see if country is already in the list, in the new list. So if C is not in, and then we're using our new unique entity list. So the first time we loop through, nothing will be in, so it's going to add Japan, right? But then the next time we loop through, it's going to run through this conditional statement, this if statement. See, Japan's already there, so it's not going to do whatever we tell it to do under this if statement. So colon here, and then this we need to go back down and indent it, and now this makes sense. We can append the country that we see in this entity list right to the new list, as long as it's not already in the unique entity list. So what is the alternative? So else, and then you just pass, right? There, pass is a common thing you can do in your else statement. There's only one thing we're going to do. We're either going to add it or we're not going to add it. So if it is in the list, then okay, it's not gonna run through this. It's just going to go to else and then pass it. It's just not going to add it. So that's all we need to do there. And I'll just click enter there to make it look a little cleaner, and fingers crossed, ControlEnter. Invalid syntax, so I think we don't need the word is, that's all. ControlEnter, yeah, there we go. So sorry I added an is, you just use in or not in this case. So let's check this out. Make a new cell, and now we can do unique entity list. Let's just run the whole thing, it shouldn't be that long, and it looks like we have all of the countries in the list only once. Last thing, just do a plus, and then we can do a little piece of code right here to check something. So once you have your new list, you're probably going to want to do something with it. So I'm just going to show you how to check the number of words, in unique country lists. But the point being, you can apply a lot of, now that you have this data off to the side and you have it stored in this unique entity list, you can do a number of things with it. So I'm just showing you one random example of something that you can do with this list. So enter, again, we'll do another for loop. So for C is just gonna be short for country. I'm gonna actually just do something different. I really wanna hammer it home that you can put anything here. So for country in unique country list, colon, you can take that country and actually let's put a print in front of it. So we're going to print out country dot split and comma length of country dot split. So this will actually give you the number of words. So split is a function, you close it, there's no arguments, you chain it or apply it at the end of this, what is a value inside of a list stored as a variable, and then comma, and then length is another function, but in order to give you the length of something, the argument is whatever you want to check the length of. So it's this country dot split. So let's go ahead and do a ControlEnter and print this out, and it looks like I missed the in. So for country in unique list, add your in and then ControlEnter. Okay, I had to pause the video there for a second. Country list doesn't exist, so let's change this to unique entity list and actually call something that exists. So unique entity list, and country still works. Again, I can call this anything, so if I change this to entity, and you don't have to do this, but if you change that to entity, you have to change everything else to entity here, and this should work. So again, you can leave country, but you do need to put unique entity list here because that's what you've created here. It would work if you called it unique country list, but we called it entity. So I'm just getting that mixed up. Do a ControlEnter, and it's still having trouble parsing. I didn't close the print statement, so there we go. Close the print statement, ControlEnter, and finally now this worked. You know, programming's a lot like that. Sometimes you just have to test it out, look at the error, and then go back and fix it. And you'll get comfortable reworking code. So what this does now is it returns as a list your value from the list, and then right next to it says, okay, how many words is this? So Japan's 1 word and the United Kingdom is 2 words, and the reason it's returning as a list is because you're asking it to split it up, and you're parsing the words. So if United Kingdom is 1 value, it needs to return both of them, and it's doing so in a list and then telling you the number. So this has been probably a lengthier tutorial than I would have hoped for, but it does give you a sense for how to examine your data a little bit using some functions, store some data and variables from the original data set, and then do something to that variable that you stored. So there's a little recap. We'll do one more in Pandas, and then we'll jump back into Power BI. So hope you like this. Take care. See you in the next one.